camp was to find stars for their show. Now they're going to find stars with no show to put them on.
Well, you got to be hopeful.
Hmm.
And I'm sure when they signed the deal for British Boot Camp, they were under the impression there would be a television show. But who knows?
Yeah. So Kurt Angle opened the show in the ring for a promo. He brought out Bobby Roode, and Bobby talked about what an honor it was to be world champion, and he did a good job of projecting this emotion for a company that has no fans and is dying.
Yeah, he came out and he was talking about how building with a championship, no more tapings, and no future television deal. This is a terrible dream, but he tried really hard. And Tenay said Bobby had a chance here to eclipse his 8-month reign. I was like, you're right. He may be champion forever.
For 100 years.
Yeah.
So Lashley and his crew came out, and MVP did all the talking. And he is talking about the fans booing the wrong guy and how Lashley never had to cheat. He was always a dominant champion. And in the middle of his spiel, he drops one line about how Lashley was the only champion in the first place because MVP had to miss a match due to a knee injury. He said this. Yes, it was.
By the way, that's true.
Mm-hmm. He said this line, and Lashley shot him a look, and Kurt noticed Lashley shooting him title tonight. And Roode said okay, and MVP said okay, and Lashley was left literally empty-handed, holding his arms out to the sides, confused look in his face.
Lashley is one of the other highlights of this show. And he has got this character now where he's this silent killer. And he's got great reactions. He didn't say one word on this show.
In the whole show.
But you know exactly what Lashley's thinking all the time.
He communicates through facial.
Davey Richards, but he was doing it again on this show where they had this segment where James Storm is meeting with him and Davey has to be in deep thought. And it's like, hey, Davey, pretend like you're in his deep of thought. Pretend you're thinking about Fermat's last theorem or something. And he scrunches up his brow and, you know what I mean? But Bobby Lashley is like, he's low-key enough about it that it comes off as believable. And he was great. He was great on this show.
So, that was the opening segment. We had, they had Davey Richards. Very briefly appeared. James Storm was trying to recruit him still.
I was going to say, there's an entire tag team tournament final here.
I scrolled down, I forgot. Yes, the best match in the show. Low-Ki and Samoa Joe cut a promo about how they would win their match, and then we got the match. Low-Ki and Samoa Joe versus the Hardys. This was really, really fun. It was very much a Hardys-style tag match, except Low-Ki was in there throwing these crazy stiff kicks and chops. Low-Ki hitting Matt Hardy as hard as he possibly could was great fun. Dueling chants of Let's Go Hardy and
Joe... They got their revenge on him.
Oh, they did. Dueling chants of Let's Go Hardy and Joe is going to kill you. They did their best to have a very fun match. Obviously, the crowd was still small. Lack of heat hurt it. But there was a fun spot where Joe puts Matt in the choke. So Joe is on his back, and Matt's on top of Joe being choked. So how does Jeff break this up? He has a senton onto the pile. He broke his own brother's ribs.
His brother.
Yes.
Who smashed into...
So it went back and forth. And eventually, Low-Ki was isolated in the ring, and Jeff killed him to death